All right, breaking news. Just a couple of hours ago, our Shams Charania broke that the New York Knicks are expected to bring in two-time NBA Coach of the Year Mike Brown as their next head coach. He replaces Tom Thibodeau, who led New York to the conference finals for the first time in 25 years. Welcome in here to Los Angeles. Here on NBA Today, I'm George Sedano in for Malika Andrews, alongside the host of the Hoop Collective podcast, Brian Windhorst, our NBA front office insider, Bobby Marks, our NBA senior reporter, Ramona Shelburne, and the Hall of Famer of Anscape, Mark Spears. I'm George Sedano. All right, so let's talk about this. Brian, I'll start with you. Knicks hire Mike Brown. Your thoughts?
So he's got one of the most established resumes of any coach in the profession right now. He coached underneath Greg Popovich, underneath Rick Carlisle, underneath Steve Kerr. Was a head coach in a number of different teams, but coached LeBron, coached Kobe. Has coached the #1 defense in the league, has coached the #1 offense in the league, which is what he did 2 years ago when he won his second Coach of the Year crown with the Kings, where he helped the Kings break their 16-year drought of playoffs where he had the #1 offense. So he has done a lot of different things over his career. He brings a wealth of experience. He's evolved a lot over the last 20 years. He got hired 20 years ago this month, as I guess last month now, 20 years ago in June to be his head coach for the first time. He's a lot different coach now than he was then. I see people comparing him. They think he's like Thibodeau because they're both defensive coaches. Yes, he's a defensive first coach, but he's very, very different, and his personality is very much, more of a mosaic than people are giving him credit for.
Well, he's walking into a situation. How many head coaches walk into a situation when you're probably one of the favorites in the Eastern Conference here? And he's walking into a lineup and a roster that has 7 returners, your top 5 starters, and you're going to add Jordan Clarkson and Gershon Yabusele here to a team that, let's face it, Eastern Conference at least is the expectation moving forward here. NBA Finals, you don't get rid of a Tom Thibodeau to go out and do that here, and it's a lot different than what he walked into in Sacramento a few years ago. But as Brian just said, the experience in being in Golden State, the experience of being in Cleveland with LeBron has certainly prepared him for this.
You know, we've all met Mike Brown at different stops along the way. You caught him early in Cleveland. I caught him mid-career at LA. And then when I saw him in Golden State, he really seemed like a changed guy. Like he took over for Steve Kerr for a lot of those games. Remember, Steve had his back injury, and he had to coach games in the finals for Steve Kerr. And Mike and Steve had this sort of symbiotic relationship where, like, Steve he spoke so highly of Mike, I didn't think they would ever let him leave. But then the Sacramento Kings said, we want some of that Golden State Warriors secret sauce. And they were in a different place than the Warriors, though. They weren't ready to win yet. They were building. And I think now he's back to a team where they're kind of ready to win. And all the things that he's learned along his journey have made him the coach he is today.
All right, let's bring in the man who broke the story. Senior insider Shams Charania broke that news earlier. Shams, take us real quick through the decision to hire Mike Brown.
George, I'm told 2 factors played into the Knicks' decision to land on Mike Brown as the head coach. They felt as a collaborator, someone that's adaptable with all levels of the organization, the front office to the players. They felt on all levels he would collaborate well. And then the other factor is leadership and what he provides in that lens. Leon Rose, the Knicks president, his staff, they did hours of research on which coach will really come in and fit the group around Jalen Brunson. And so Mike Brown, Taylor Jenkins, James Borrego, Micah Nori, those were the finalists for this job. Mike Brown, I'm told, interviewed for a second time on Tuesday with Knicks officials. He's the only coach that met with them twice, and that meeting included James Dolan. And so now he walks away with a coaching job, and this is a pressure cooker of a job for Mike Brown. This has championship expectations, and he's coached a vast array of stars throughout his 3 decades as head coach. I mean, think about LeBron James in Cleveland, in San Antonio, Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, in Golden State, Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, Klay Thompson. Most recently, of course, Kobe Bryant as well, Pau Gasol, and then De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis in 2022-23. The Kings had the top-ranked offense in the NBA. They're obviously hoping for that same level of creativity coming up in New York.
Shams, you're the man. Thanks for the time, brother. Appreciate you. All right, there he is, Shams Charania. Mark, let me ask you about your thoughts on the hire with Mike Brown.
You know, I know Mike pretty well, and once he lost his position, you know, he's certainly in a financial position to just chill and do nothing. Could have chilled for a couple years. I could tell he never rested. He was studying all the openings, what could be best for him, how he could fit in. And he has spent time and time and time studying these teams. And I know when he came to New York, he was ready. He had studied their offense for months already. He had studied what they do on defensively, studied what he could do to try to make them better. He's a military guy. Brian knows this. Like, he's going to come ready for everything. And I think I asked him when he first talked to him, I was like, man, there's a lot of pressure that comes with this job. This is a different kind of job. He said, I love it. I want this. And so I think the Knicks, they're getting somebody where all the laughing is stopping. They got a quality head coach who's been through all the battles and is going to walk in and command respect. And I think, to Ramona's point, too, Mike is also, since his Golden State days, has learned to kind of loosen up as a coach and relate with the players a lot better.
You talk about pressure. He had the hardest job in sports, following Phil Jackson.
Yeah.
Coaching LeBron James. I mean, like, this man, you think
That's
the New
why
York
he ain't
pressure
tripping.
cooker is tough? He's had those jobs
Yeah.
already.
I thought the hardest coaching job was the Sacramento Kings.
I mean, that one certainly has instability. I would say that.
In terms of, like, day-to-day.
He failed at that.
I know where you're going.
Day-to-day following.
Yeah.
I mean, following Phil Jackson's a pretty tough one.
But real quick,
Yeah.
he did certainly accomplish something in Sacramento. They hadn't made the playoffs in 16
right.
years.
No, there's a lot of fans there.
Yeah.
I'm going to be interested to see what they do with the assistant coaching staff. I think, obviously, I think Rick Brunson's obviously going to be on the coaching staff like he was. But how many of the assistants from last year's staff remain? I think
Well,
quite
one's
a
at
few.
Florida State now, so.
Yeah.
But I think he could be chilling right now, man. And
could.
that self
Yeah.
shows me something about how competitive he is as a coach, as a person. He could be in French Riviera right now. He wanted to coach.
Right.
And they're going to get a little bit of discount because the Kings
Are going to offset some of it.
Yeah.
Right.
But the fact that he never wavered from the time that he got fired about taking time off. I never heard him say, you know what, I'm going to just go work with us, come over here. No, he wanted to work.
All right, so now that the coaching carousel is over, let's get back to free agency. The story of the past 48 hours and all the noise you hear is certainly the sound of the bank vaults opening. So far, over $2 billion have been agreed to in the 2025 period. Here's a little refresher on what's gone down. There have been over 50 agreements this offseason, headlined by Denver trading Michael Porter Jr. to the Nets in exchange for Cam Johnson. MPJ obviously won a championship with Denver back in 2023. One of the biggest winners in free agency were the Atlanta Hawks, who got one of the most highly coveted guards in Nickeil Alexander-Walker on a 4-year, $62 million deal. To the Western Conference, the Clippers. They bolstered their front court. They added 2021 NBA champion Brook Lopez, who agreed to a 2-year, $18 million deal. And now he's also closer to Disneyland. We know he's a big Disney fan for sure. Which left the void, by the way, of Milwaukee at center. Insert now 10-year vet Miles Turner, who agreed to a 4-year, $107 million deal with the Bucks. Turner leaves the reigning Eastern Conference champs in one of the biggest shockers of the offseason. But to make all of this happen, the Bucks had to free up some money, which resulted in waiving Damian Lillard in stretching and his remaining $113 million deal. All right, that's already what's happened, but some big names still available. So, we got to go coast to coast now. First up, Russell Westbrook. He's coming off a productive season with the Nuggets where he averaged over 13 points and 6 assists per game. Mark, what's the best landing spot for Russ?
Well, one thing I know he wants to do is be closer to home. The Kings are certainly interested in him. Sacramento, I think that might be a good spot for him.
All right, moving on. Chris Paul coming off a season where he became the first player in NBA history to play all 82 games in the 20th season or later. So, Ramona, what's the best spot for CP3?
Well, another one who wants to play close to home. He lives here in Los Angeles. And how about a reunion with the Phoenix Suns? I know we've been talking about that for a few days. I still think that's the most likely spot that he ends up in. Devin Booker loves him. They had a great thing going. And what have we said for the past 2 years? They lack leadership. You got one of the best leaders in sports right out there.
All right, next up, Al Horford shot a career-low 42.3% last season. Still played ridiculous defense. Over 100 made three-pointers for the third straight year. So, Brian, what about Al Horford?
He's valued by everybody in the league. He has lots of different options, including retirement. But if he decides to indeed continue his career, the Golden State Warriors have been very aggressive in trying to bring him in. He would fit well anywhere.
Perfect.
But obviously, the Lakers are badly in need of a center, so they have been involved with that too. So I would expect there's a decent chance if he continues his career, it's out here on the West Coast with either Golden State or LA.
So we'll keep an eye on where Al Horford will be. And lastly, Josh Giddey, post-All-Star break. Giddey was incredible, averaging nearly a triple-double while shooting 50% from the field, 46 from three. So, Bobby, what's a good fit for Josh Giddey?
Oh, the power of restricted free agency. The only fit is Chicago for Josh Giddey here. Certainly when you look at the market has dried up. There is no teams out there with cap space. Certainly when you look at what the Bulls can offer, it's going to have to be on a compromise as far as where he's going to be. He could sign that one-year qualifying offer and then become a free agent again next offseason. But for right now, it's Chicago just because of the lack of cap space.
Free agency is only a couple of days in, but there are some pretty solid players still available. DeAndre Ayton, Damian Lillard, obviously, as we mentioned, will be available once they clear waivers, and a good group of restricted free agents, including Jonathan Kuminga, Quentin Grimes, and Cam Thomas. Previously the Nets. Today, let's head out to Milwaukee, where the Bucks shook up the league yesterday by waiving Dame Lillard and reaching a 4-year, $107 million deal with former Pacer big man Miles Turner. It's been a bit over 24 hours since Shams broke the news in Milwaukee. With the day to digest now, let's ask you guys what you think. Brian, what'd you make of the deal?
Well, I thought it was very creative, full points for creativity and audacity.
If you're scoring in gymnastics.
ESPN Bet, they put out the odds after it, and the Bucks have the 8th best odds.
Wow.
To win the East.
Oof.
Oh.
So my concern, if I'm a Bucks fan, I really appreciate ownership doing this. Let me just say, as a Cleveland Browns fan, it was kind of risky for Deshaun Watson to be traded for 3 first-round picks and then be given the largest guaranteed contract in the history of the sport. Jimmy Haslam is the same owner. He owns the Bucks, one of the co-owners of the Bucks, and to do the biggest buyout in the history of the sport. Yeah. I mean, it's audacious. My concern for their forthcoming pitch to Giannis to want to be there long-term is that it didn't move the needle enough. And that's nothing against Miles Turner, who is an excellent player in his prime.
It's the rest of the roster.
It's just to do what they did, which was their last card to play and an extremely penal card to, maybe move the ball along the football analogy just a few yards down the field. Yeah, I'm a little bit, squeamish about that.
Well, I would say this. We look at rosters when you're in the front office in a 3-year window, especially under this collective bargaining agreement. You have to strategize not just for now, but for the future. When you're looking at it in a situation for Milwaukee, it's day to day.
Yeah.
That's how you have to do it. I mean, especially when you have a generational player like Giannis on your roster. Some people called it reckless. Some people called it desperation. I would have done it.
Yeah.
I would have done it. And you know what I would have said? Someone else can clean up my mess 3 years from now.
Yeah.
When I'm not here because Giannis just left.
Yeah.
That's what I would have said. And it's a huge number. It's $23 million that will never leave. It's not, we can't trade that player.
Yeah.
It's $23 million. Now, for the rest of the roster, that's going to be, we'll see what happens here, but you had to go out and do that. 5 years, $22.5 million, because they, as Brian said, there was no other rabbit in the hat to pull out. There was no other card to play. There was no draft picks that you were going to trade there.
Well, Ramona, I'll tee you up then. Have they done enough in regards to ultimately keeping Giannis in Milwaukee?
I mean, he's the only one who's going to know that, and my sense is, just from conversations around, I don't think anything will be decided on his end until August, September, because big deals or anything like that, whether he goes or stays, that kind of decision doesn't come until later in the summer. But for me, we have teams in the NBA right now, and they all have a choice. There's a new CBA. Do you want to be disciplined, or do you want to be aggressive? Because we all sat up here last year. We were talking, the Philadelphia 76ers won the offseason. Right. What are the Clippers doing, letting Paul George go for nothing? Remember that? Mm-hmm. I think I tried to defend the Clippers a little, saying, look, it's a new CBA. The second apron is like winter is coming. They understood how serious it was. And guess what? The Clippers look pretty smart right now. They look pretty smart right now for being disciplined. But also, I know where Bobby is, too. When you have a generational superstar, how do you sleep at night? If he leaves and you didn't do everything and you didn't play every card that you can play to try to keep that guy, even if it's not the best hand, They don't have the best hand. This is like, if you're a poker player, this is like Jack 10 offsuit.
Yeah.
Okay? But sometimes you hit a flop. Maybe they'll hit a flop. Maybe the price for Giannis would be too high and no one will want to do it. Maybe they can keep him through the trade deadline and they can go on a run. That's what you got to do.
We'll see how it all unfolds for sure. I don't think, to your point, I don't think anyone really knows, but only Giannis will have to figure that out for us, and we'll see how that goes from there. But let's talk about Dame at this point and what the next steps are for him as he gets ready to return. Mark, you've been all over the reporting on Dame. What do you feel are some potential landing spots for Dame?
Well, I don't have a bam or a boom, but I got a list.
Okay, right. There we go.
There you go. Let's go with a wild card. You want to throw a wild card?
Sure, let's start with the wild card.
I got a top 5.
Okay.
My wild card is the Blazers.
Whoa!
The Blazers, yes.
Whoa!
Dame has quietly gotten better graces with them.
Okay.
That's a move that's like probably a last resort. I just want to be home. I want to be close to my kids. I just want to rehab. It's easy.
Training there right now?
It's a wild card. It's not top 5. Top 5. Number 5. Celtics. The Boston Celtics. You know, there's another guy right there you just saw that Dame could rehab with.
Yeah.
In terms of the Achilles, they're good friends. If you think about it, 2 years from now, what is that team with Dame at point guard? They're a championship caliber team again. All right, number 4, your Los Angeles Lakers. Woo! I know Ramona's excited about that. How does it work? I don't know. Not a lot of defense out there on the guard spots is what I would say.
LeBron was recruiting him to the Lakers 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Brian brought him into his house. Remember that?
Yeah.
All right, now number 3, this might be the sexiest one. Yeah, Houston Rockets. Obviously, they got Fred VanVleet. What an addition Dame could be for a team that is probably had the greatest offseason. Add him, we'll see. Number 2, his hometown, the team he grew up with, in Washington Oracle Arena, his Golden State Warriors. It's been a dream of Aaron Goodwin, his agent, and for Dame to possibly wear that Golden State jersey one day. Keep an eye on the hometown team and think of him and Steph shoot together. Wow. Number 1, the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Whoa!
Number 1.
Okay.
I just got
Minnesota
goosebumps.
Timberwolves would
Number
be an
1.
amazing pick.
Woo!
All due respect to Michael Conley. If they brought him in, running point next to Ant, imagine the shooting in that backcourt. Imagine the boost that Minnesota would get. Imagine Mike coming in behind him. Brian, you're looking at me.
I see him. He's tapping his fingers.
You're
That's
looking
something
at me,
I hadn't
Brian.
considered.
Wow.
That's a good one.
But he
That's something I
and
haven't
Ant-Man got a
considered.
relationship. Him to Minnesota, they were in the West Finals.
Yeah.
That could be big.
I mean, you all heard our reaction on television. We all went, whoa, when you dropped the number 1. Because, again, I don't think any of us saw that coming.
Well, remember, we got to let Dame rehab.
And this is my picks. I'm not saying this is what Dame.
Yeah, something tells me that
I think you're fairly well
you're not unsure.
Yeah.
I think Minnesota makes a ton of sense. But you know, really, you have to make sure he's okay. We always saw that he's obviously rehabbing. It's great to see him on the 0G. He's already starting to run again or walk or whatever. It's only early July. He just had that injury in April. You'd want to see where he's at, but let's just be honest. If Dame is able to come back and play and is a late season addition to a team, that's a potential game-changing.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's something that you could take a team that's in, near the top and put them over the top. So, I don't want to put pressure on him. I don't want to make any assumptions. But, man, that is one of the biggest things that's going to be on the horizon during the season.
Well, we saw it with the Lakers, right? They were, toiling in the play-in. Luka ends up on the team. They were the 3 seed.
Well, and I think also he doesn't have to make a decision now.
Yeah.
I mean, he could sit back and see where the season shakes out.
And I'm told they're going to be patient.
Yeah.
Aaron told me there's no rush.
Why not wait till December or January?
Aaron Goodwin is
that
8,
long.
just for people that don't know. Yeah.
Well, I mean, but I would want to see how the season plays out. I would want to see where the team, which team could I help, and let me see where he is in his rehab. Obviously, he's coming back at All-Star break. I mean, that sounds optimistic to me. But if that's a possibility, then let's see go where they need you. Go where the team that's best positioned to sign you is.
And it's not going to be the team that has the highest money. Remember, he
doesn't need it.
He's not giving back money to Milwaukee.
But I am told that teams are being creative in what they could try to offer.
Okay. Fair enough. Certainly something to keep an eye on for sure. Included his rookie season with the Sonics when they moved to OKC. He spent the next 8 seasons with the Thunder. KD spoke on the current Thunder on the Mind the Game podcast with LeBron and Steve Nash.
It's a problem for the league.
Yeah, it is.
It's a problem in the league. Those guys are all young dudes.
Shai's gonna be that guy for the rest of his career. What is Jalen Williams and Chet gonna be? You know what I'm saying? Of course they're playing great right now, but those three guys gotta keep getting. I mean, Shai's already at that level, but those two guys gotta keep getting better. Those guys got a solid core of dudes. I think they're gonna continue to hunt everybody.
The Thunder seem to have broken the mold with their championship win this season, and they leaned in heavy on their youth. So Oklahoma City is the second youngest team to win a title in the shot clock era behind the 77 Blazers with Bill Walton and company, and appear to be situated to keep the winning ways going here. All right, this Thunder team, okay, they have a chance to be really good for a long time, all right? But Mark, after all the moves this season, who do you think is the biggest threat to them in the West?
Denver. I really like what they did, man. Getting Cam in their starting lineup. He plays on both ends. I just saw him in New York. I think he's pretty ecstatic to be going to Denver. And then you're bringing guys like Bruce back, and their bench got better. You got to remember, they took the Thunder to 7 games in the second round. They're still scary to me. I think they're going to have a chip on their shoulder. I think last season was the toughest for Aaron Gordon after the nightmare that he went through with his brother's pass, and I think he'll be better. I'm scared for what the Denver Nuggets could be next season.
I'm also going to say Denver. I covered that series between those two teams. It was really close, and I think the Thunder's superior depth helped them push through, and Aaron Gordon's injury in that Game 7 really was a major factor in that series. But they got better this offseason. They got Tim Hardaway Jr. for their bench this year.
Jonas.
Right? Valanciunas, like, they've done a really good job of reshaping that roster and adding some depth, the one thing they lacked. Plus, I think those guys walked away from that series feeling like they could win.
Listen, I get it. I did games 3 and 4 of that series.
Yeah.
But I think the Houston Rockets could be that team when they desperately needed someone to help close games for them. And KD is certainly that guy that can bring that part of the game to the Houston Rockets. They didn't give up very much for him in regards to the fact that, like, Jalen Green is a nice young player, but KD's going to fill that role. I think Jabari Smith is going to get better. Sengun is going to get better. Amen Thompson is a star in the making. And they have the leadership of Fred VanVleet, Ime Udoka. They add a guy, Clint Capella, to add more depth up front. They've done a really nice job here this offseason.
They got a lot going for them, without question. It's been remarkable to watch their turnaround for the last couple of years. They don't have Jokic.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you beat Jokic one time, and you're like, wow, that was tough.
Yeah.
Beat him 4 times. You know,
they got Turkish Jokic.
Well, when he gets to regular Jokic, let me know. But I don't want to say anything negative about the Rockets. I respect them a lot, but I respect number 15 more than any.
Okay, fair enough. All right, one team we can all probably agree on is the Lakers in regards to not being in that top tier at the moment of the Western Conference. So they've added Jake LaRavia and lost Dorian Finney-Smith so far, who went to the Rockets, by the way. So, Ramona, how do you feel about the Lakers currently?
I'm waiting. I'm waiting to see what else they do.
As their fan base is.
Right? Like, waiting. I mean, I don't like to decide who won or lost the offseason today. And oftentimes the people we think won or lost the offseason, we've sat up here and said, oh, what a great offseason the Lakers had. And then none of those pieces fit, and they had to trade everybody. I mean, so they haven't done much. I mean, I think letting Finney-Smith go, that's going to hurt them. They give him a first to get him. That was kind of rough for them. But at the price that he left, I understand why they did it. Losing Brook Lopez, who everybody, we assumed they were going to get because of the uncertainty and that he felt around LeBron James' future with the franchise, that has to hurt. And so now they're still scrambling for a center. Dave McMenamin said here on the show yesterday, they've got some trades working. I've heard the same. But what kind of names are we talking about? Are these elite rim runners that are going to partner with Luka forever, or are these just guys?
I would probably say more of the latter than the former. So I think that's a problem for them. Yeah. Unless they make a trade.
Let's say, and I think it will come via trade.
But they've been reluctant to part with that 2031 pick or the 32. They can trade one of them.
Yeah. They are reluctant to put in future assets, but I also they have to do something, and I think they recognize that. I know they have a few things going, so I'm going to say incomplete.
Okay.
Waiting.
Fair enough. Bobby's at the board. Let's get to Bobby at the board with the Lakers. Bobby, what do you got?
I would agree with Ramon. I would give them an incomplete also, because we've been talking since February about trying to get a center. And right now, for today, it's Jared Vanderbilt, who's better served coming off the bench. I would certainly pay attention to what happens with DeAndre Ayton. He clears waivers at 5 p.m. Eastern time today. My big concern also, George, is their bench, right? As far as where their bench is, they certainly signed Jake LaRavia. And here's what's left, Dalton Connect. Here's some of the big questions right now. They've got 2 exceptions, $8 million and $5.1 million. But watch out for the first apron. They're $14 million below. So you combine both of them, you can sign separate players. You're going to be right pressed against that number. These 2 right here are connected, okay? They have $40 million in expiring contracts. We mentioned that first in 20 and 31 or 32. But they also have flexibility in 26, where they potentially could have maybe 2 max players to join Luka. Here's the question. If there's a trade out there for the Lakers where they have to take back money that stretches into next season and it doesn't really move the needle that much, but it gets them better a little bit, would they go out and do that here and take away some of that flexibility for next season?
All right, well, thank you, Bobby. Beyond free agency, best defense that led them to a 2025 title. This season, Lu Dort became just the 3rd undrafted player to make first-team all-defense over the last 15 years, joining his current teammate, Alex Caruso and Robert Covington. And now, joining us on set here on NBA Today, first-team all-defense NBA champion, Luguentz Dort. We got a bunch of champs on this stage today.
Welcome, brother, welcome.
Good to see you, sir.
It's good, man.
Yes, sir. Congrats.
Good, good, all right.
Good.
Surprised you're not still celebrating.
Right? I mean, I took a little break.
So tell us, what has it been like since you've been a champ?
No, it's been great. A lot of celebration, a lot of enjoyment, a lot of partying. But looking back to this whole season, we really happy about what we did.
Do Oklahomans party or celebrate like Canadians?
Yeah, it's about the same. It's about the same.
I seen our parade. Your parade was fun. Did you see our parade?
I seen a couple
How was the parade? Did you enjoy the parade?
The parade was amazing.
Okay.
Honestly, man, I think it was
a lot of love out there.
I loved it a lot, man. I think it was one of the best time of this past couple days. The fans showed so much love. They was out there, and then we showed a lot of love back. I tell you that. Yeah.
Okay. You guys had so many twists and turns, right? I always tell people, we've talked about a million times about how young you guys were as a group. And it felt like at times you were kind of learning on the job through the last couple of years. But in this particular postseason, is there a moment that sticks out to you that you guys felt like this is a turning point for us or a catapulting moment for us?
Yeah. I would say the way that we turn the page after a loss. I mean, it's always hard to lose a game in the playoff, and you in your head sometimes, and you think about, are we really, ready for this challenge? But the way that we just turn the page and we regroup, watch film, and see some of the control stuff that we could do the game after that, and then we went out there and then executed, and pretty much won every game.
7-0 after losses this postseason.
They're very good. I have a similar question. I was going to take that one, but for me, it's you guys are very young and you're a confident group. And obviously, the head of the snake, the leader, SGA.
Yeah.
What were the moments that you guys were most nervous? Like, what team had you guys a little bit like, our season could be really on the line here?
Yeah, I would say Denver Nuggets was the one that, had us shaking a little bit.
Okay.
They won before and they've been in those type of positions. So, it was, they did a great job as well responding and all that.
Indiana, for me, it was Indiana game 4 for you because I had you guys picked. I had picked you guys to win in 6. And when I watched game 4, I even saw the first half. I was really nervous for you.
Yeah. I mean, we were a little nervous that game. Yeah, I'll tell you that. I'm gonna be honest, but we just knew that we could have get it done. You know what I mean? We just had to do it together, and then. Yeah.
First team all defense. I voted for you defensive player of the year. I've told you that already before, but no knock on anyone else. But you always drew the toughest assignment. Just the mindset that it goes in, and Danny obviously can recognize this as well as a great defender, but just the mindset that goes into having to pick up the toughest assignment night in and night out.
Yeah. Every approach, I mean, I know my team wants me to be that guy all the time, and I know I'm capable of doing that as well. So, every time I see especially an all-star, I always, really like to see that type of challenge. And then, I know that every time I can take one of them guys out, I'm helping my team win.
I love that, man. And I want to give a little bit of time to shout out some of the guys that are your teammates that I got a chance to play with. Isaiah Joe and Alex Caruso. How big were they, especially Alex Caruso, for this championship run and in the finals of keeping you guys poised and mature and also teach you how to celebrate.
Yeah.
You know, tell me some of the things that AC has taught you.
AC is huge. I mean, he's a real leader, really loud on the court. He's real vocal. You know, he's a hell of a defender. And then, you know, we kind of needed a guy like that on our team, you know, with a lot of experience and just, you know, always being loud in the good time and the bad times. And, you know, he's done a great job with that. And, you know, Isaiah Joe is always ready. He's always ready for the moment.
My guy.
Every time he gets his name called, he'll show up in the game and hit a big shot.
Found home for him. I'm happy for him.
Yeah.
Speaking of getting their name called, we had a bunch of guys get their name called at the draft here recently. You were undrafted, though. What message would you have for some of those guys like yourself that had to take a different path?
Yeah. I mean, the draft is a draft. It can go good, sometimes can go bad, but you know, it's just a start. You know, it's an opportunity, and then, you know, if anybody gets a chance, you know, to at least sign a two-way or a summer league contract, whatever it is, you know, just use that and go out there and use that motivation to go out there and prove that you belong in this league.
Danny mentioned Alex Caruso a second ago. You see what he's been up to since you guys won a championship? He's at Raising Cane's, giving out orders and stuff.
Yeah, he's still working.
Not shocked by that. Not shocked by that.
There it is. There's Alex Caruso at Raising Cane's doing his thing, taking orders in the drive-thru.
Second day job.
Yeah.
Okay, AC.
You know, that second apron is a real thing. You know what I'm saying?
I guess 80 million is not enough, huh?
No, right? He's doing more.
But is the team going to give you guys an opportunity to take the trophy back to your home cities?
I hope they do. I'm pretty sure they will. We haven't had that conversation yet, but you know, you've been to Montreal.
It's a good place. It's a great place.
So I'm looking forward to bringing the trophy there.
Okay.
Luguentz Dort, NBA champion. Thank you so much for joining us, man.
Appreciate the time, brother. Congratulations, man. NBA champ.
The champ is here on NBA Today.
Thank you, guys.
All right, congrats to Lu Dort. Also, Alex Caruso, some of that Raising Cane's here. I'm kind of hungry. Hey, if you're already missing the NBA, the 10th